Hi everyone, thank you for joining this international event, Women That Build Talks, empowering the leaders of the future, free and open to all women in the STEM industry. Globant Awards Women That Build seeks to recognize the women shaking up the technology sector in every stage of their careers. We shine a light on the trailblazers who are reinventing themselves and setting an example to inspire more women leaders in tech fields. This year, Women's Month is #EmbraceEquity, and we believe it is important that equity is represented in all spaces, especially in the industries that generate the most impact and change, which is technology. That is why we partner with prestigious institutions, including the George Washington Business School University, Udemy, Coach Hub, Workana, and Vital Voices, with the goal of reflecting on strategies and opportunities for women and minorities, access, and leadership in IT. Our commitment is not only to create opportunities, we also create data and some interesting insights to investigate how we can build more inclusive teams and environments. In other words, we generate knowledge in which preferences and motivations people working in technology have to learn and reinvent themselves. Our first milestone was IT Voices, a unique global survey in the industry to map the situation of people in technology and understand the changes in the work and personal life after the pandemic. We found out that women already working in technology are finding spaces to develop economic growth. 41% of women in the STEM industry perceive a salary increase during the pandemic, and only 19% perceive that their salary decreased. This number highlights the impact of different actions the industry has been boosting in order to generate more diverse spaces. Taking into account that the majority of jobs losses during and after the pandemic have been in industries that pay low average wages and women and minorities were hit the hardest, there is a great opportunity for women to enter the tech industry. We found out that most participants stated that their opportunities for promotion and growth were not affected, but more women and men with their care responsibilities perceived that their opportunities for growth decreased. 19% of the total in this group versus 14% in the group without this type of tasks. This number shows that we are really in a need to continue working together as a team to continue narrowing the gaps in the industry. Now we are writing another research in which we are applying behavioral science and other innovative methodologies that will bring light in the different topics, such as first, how we can recruit more women in technology positions, and secondly, which are the women's learning preferences and motivations. Decision-making based on data is crucial for the success of any organization, especially when we're talking about diversity and inclusion. By using data to guide decision-making, we are able to identify those trends, patterns, and insights, and what would otherwise be invisible, and continue working towards building a more inclusive industry and business. In the following sessions, we will work with practical and sustainable tools with amazing speakers from the industry and academia who are addressing the current role of women in technology, entrepreneurship, and leadership, and how this data could be transformed to actions. Don't miss out. I want to introduce our keynote speaker, the benchmark Kathy Korman, Managing Director at the George Washington Business School University and founder of the Hot Mamas Project, which provides free online access to stories of female role models and mentorships. Kathy is a woman who inspires other women around the world, and her background makes her a specialist in how to create a powerful mentoring network. For us, it is a pleasure to listen to her today.
Hi, everyone. It's Kathy Korman Frey. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. I'm really happy to be here celebrating women around the world. And what a great month for it. In the US, we have Women's History Month. We have International Women's Day coming up, which is a globally celebrated holiday. So let's get started. First of all, we're going to spend about half the time talking about the how and why of mentoring, which is the answer to all questions. How can I be successful? How can I figure out an answer to this, et cetera, et cetera. what we found in the women's leadership area is the incredible importance of mentoring. So I'm going to explain a little bit of the research behind that. Additionally, we're going to then get into an actual example. So be sure you have something to write with near you, like a tablet or, that you can do your stylus on, or pieces of paper and a pen. Now, number one, why mentoring? So first of all, let me just say that I'm in my office at the George Washington University, and we're in the city in Washington, D.C. And so a lot of times we'll hear sirens or ambulances or something outside. So just be prepared. We may have to take a temporary pause if that happens. Now, the why of mentoring. Let's talk a little bit about the research. So number one is self-efficacy. You may have heard this term before, but you may not have. And self-efficacy is the type of confidence that we want all the people in our lives to have. It's that thought, I can do it. Or if I don't think I can do it, I have the confidence that I can figure it out. Self-efficacy is a type of goal-oriented confidence. And it was essentially developed by a really famous social psychologist, Albert Bandura. So what we want to do is talk about Dr. Bandura's concept of self-efficacy, and lots of other researchers have written on this topic, but we're going to make it very practical for us. Self-efficacy plays a huge role in the lives of women and girls. Why? If we want, Kathy, you just said it'd be great if everybody has self-efficacy. Why are you now talking about self-efficacy only with respect to women and girls? Well, here's why. Research shows us that at the age of about 11 years old, self-efficacy starts differing between girls and boys. So there's a study that shows the grown-up version of this, which is a woman and a man, exact same qualifications, exact same education, exact same work experience. And you ask them, so would you like to be an entrepreneur? And the men say, yeah, sure. And the women say, well, I don't know. And some of that is a difference in self-efficacy. It's confidence in why not? Let's try it. I think I can figure it out. So we need to practice that. And additionally, we've seen that mentorship plays a really important role. So we took Dr. Bandura's concepts and we sort of organized them into a formula and tested it with women over the course of about 10 years. Women here in the US, women from around the world, many different ages, ranging from probably about 18 years old to 60 years old. And what we found is that mentors wind up being about half of the self-efficacy equation that we put together and tested, and your own voice in your head. And something called mastery experiences, meaning you've done something challenging and you can say, hey, I did that. That is the other half of it. So if we want to think of it as a sandwich, we've got mastery experience, mentors, what they say to you, and now we're going to put on the other piece of bread, which is us. Mastery experiences, and the second piece of bread is us. Guess what this last one is? Self-talk. So how many times do we have that negative voice in our head? We started off great with the mastery experience. We had some great mentors. They said cool stuff to us. Sometimes maybe some not so cool stuff, but they always wanted what was best for us. That's how you think about a mentor. But this last part, a lot of people mess it up here. Okay, so I just want you to be aware of that before we get into mentorship. You can have that challenging experience of mastery. Right? It could be a challenging project, something you did at work, going back to school, starting your business, fill in the blank. We all know what those are. I mean, geez, like raising my kids, that's been challenging. So something like that can be a mastery experience. Then we need to be sure we have mentors. And getting back to the research, how many mentors do we need? Well, I'm so glad you asked that, because our research shows that you need a minimum of 5. Why do you need a minimum of 5 mentors? Because 4 and fewer have less confidence. up to like a 20% difference in confidence. So we actually kind of don't know why. We need to do a little bit more research to figure out why. But this correlates with a lot of other research on close relationships, which is actually how we got the idea to add that into our research. They say people with 5 close friends are happier. We thought, maybe we will add that into our survey of all these women around the world who wrote their stories to serve as mentors on paper, mentors on the computer, etc. We read those stories because that has mentorship value too. So just as you are sitting here learning, listening, taking time out of your schedule, I mean, thank you. There's a million other things you could be doing. Guess what? It's probably going to increase your self-efficacy because the women that you'll interact with and hear from today, those are like mentors. Yes, the research on mentors shows that even reading about mentors, hearing from mentors can result in a boost in self-efficacy. There's a study, I think it's a Swedish study, that shows that when a picture of a powerful woman, like a poster, because it's at the back of a big room, is up on the wall, students who had to give speeches got up and spoke longer when they saw that picture at the back of a wall. So let's just think about this from a common sense standpoint. If a picture of an inspirational woman at the back of a classroom has a student speak longer, just imagine what listening to a talk today, reaching out to a mentor could do, because that's more, right? More detailed, more involved, more personal. So we need to really focus on that 50%, the meat of the sandwich of those mentors, and take it seriously. And how do we think about our mentors? Well, we know we want 5. And many of the questions we get are, hold on a second here. I have some people who give me advice, but I'm not sure they have my best interest at heart. They're very critical of me. They try to tell me what to do. Some of them are related to me, right? This is tricky. And this happens a lot. So what I want you to do is picture a table, and you've got 5 seats at the table. And not everybody gets to sit at that table. Some people are going to sit in the back of the room. Some people are not even going to be allowed in the room. But that's your decision. And you don't have to announce it to anybody. But when you're calling people, when you're emailing people, when you're DMing people, you're texting people, there's so many ways, right? For advice or to connect, you're starting with the people at this table. So we're going to go through a framework, an example of how to find these people and decide, do I have the right people at the table? So I think I've got all the research done. The last thing I'd like to tell you is about women and self-marketing or self-promotion. There was a study years ago. It was the largest HR or human resources study done in the world. And it showed that women are not great at marketing themselves or promoting themselves. So in the women's leadership field, we sit there and wait for new studies to come out. We say, ooh, I really hope this changes. And many things have. For instance, in the field of negotiation, new research has come out showing that in certain circumstances where women are advocating for others, like I'm advocating for my team, I'm advocating for my family, I'm advocating for my friends, I will outperform men in negotiations. But previous research showed that men outperform women in negotiations. And a lot of that is just attitude and saying, I'm going to negotiate. I've decided I'm going to negotiate. This is just a part of life. It's part of who I am. Many people, that makes them very nervous. So what we need to think about is, number one, what do we see around us that shows we're breaking the research? The research is changing. But number two, we can play a role in breaking the research. We can say, you know what? I've got these 5 people at my personal board of advisors at this table. And I hear the amazing things that some of them are doing. And you know what? I'm going to give them a shout out. I'm going to brag about them to my peers, to my boss, out in public at an event. I'm going to celebrate their accomplishments. So we might not be great at promoting ourselves or marketing ourselves. However, we're great at promoting and marketing each other, as evidenced by the negotiation research. I mean, my gosh, we changed decades of research on gender and negotiation by changing one variable. We advocated for somebody else. So let's be aware of and use our superpowers. Number one, we know we need 5 mentors. That creates a difference for us with self-efficacy. We want self-efficacy because that's goal-oriented confidence, right? Number 2 is we're not that great at marketing ourselves. Let's say that's true. We may know some people who are fantastic at it. We may know some people who are not great at it, but this is what the research shows us right now. So we can have one arrow pointing towards somebody else and create a multiplier effect. We put that in a circle, boom, 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 multiplier effect. So if we are not as fabulous at marketing ourselves, market somebody else and get people in your board of advisors who will help market and promote you and celebrate your accomplishments. And by the way, I will tell you, everybody at this table does not need to be female. Male mentorship is very important, and there's a very hot topic right now called male allyship. These are the men who know the economic power and just the diversity that women bring to all the work environments, whether it is a nonprofit or a very large corporation. The research shows you bring women into the equation and you're going to experience higher profitability, higher retention, fewer lawsuits. That's not the topic of my talk today, but the research is out there and it's really powerful. So let's move into the example. Okay, we know we want 5 mentors. We know it creates a 20% difference minimum in self-efficacy. Can you have more mentors? Sure, have more mentors. And we want to be sure that we're in this virtuous circle and multiplier effect of self-promotion. So what do we do? All right, number 1, we do what's called a mentor matrix. So I've got Mechi here. Mechi is texting me and listening along, and she is going to tell me her goal. And I want all of you, along with Mechi, to write your goal on a piece of paper. All right, so your goal, Mechi, is to start a homeschool business. Oh, but it's online. Okay. This is what let me just double check with her that she wants it to be online. Online? Question mark? Yes. Okay. So this is great for women in the STEM area. And I think it's worth pointing out, I don't think Mechi would mind my sharing, that she has a background as a teacher. She's from Salta, actually. She happens to be from Argentina, and now she lives up here in the DC area. She has a background as an English teacher. And then during the pandemic, when she was in the US, she and her husband, obviously, their kids are at home, and she's homeschooling them. And so she really relied on her background as a teacher. And then because it's online and we all had to do this, right? She had to get much more technical and rely on those skills. So she wants to start an online homeschool business. Now, what we're going to do is go through what I call, normally what we do is go through what I call 5 get smart areas. Instead, we're going to do today 3. Okay, very soon I'm going to show you why I am not in an architecture or art field. You're going to be really scared by this paper I'm going to show you, but what we want to do is have 3 columns. So we have our goal at the top, and then we have 3 columns, which is get smart, and we're going to have 2 other columns, okay? So here's get smart, That's our Get Smart area. Here's 2 other columns. We have our goal up top. All right, so Mechi's going to tell us her Get Smart areas. Okay, Get Smart area, Mechi, what is it? Okay, LMS, she's telling me, which, being a massive nerd, I will tell you what this means for those of you who don't know, learning management systems. So we have big companies that do that for schools in the US and all around the world, frankly. But then there's also smaller ones that if you are a podcaster or if you are a blogger or if you are an influencer, you can sort of get on and use these platforms on your own and make your own courses. So I'm not sure which one Mechi wants to do, but the truth is she doesn't have to figure that out right now. She wants to get smart about learning management systems. All right, so now we're going to ask her, who do you know? Who comes to mind who's smart with regard to learning management systems? So I'm going to say, who do we know in this area? All right, I'm not saying who would you talk to. I'm saying who do we know in this area? Because I want her to be thinking bigger. I don't want her to limit herself. That tends to fill out the mentor matrix with like all your best friends and family members. We want to stretch a little bit here. Okay, so who do we know? Okay, and she wants to talk to me, but I'm not going to count myself here because I'm like a really good friend. Pat Flynn is who she's put down. So Pat Flynn has a series of podcasts and he has a series of courses on Teachable. And is he in homeschooling? No. But might he know about LMS? Yes. And what is the action that you're going to take, Mechi, to try to talk to or meet up with or learn from Pat Flynn? What is the action, Mechi? What is action? Okay. And date. That's really important. So we're going to have a to-do or an action and a date. We all know about SMART goals, right? We don't want dumb goals. So we have to have actionable and the date. Okay. Sorry for the lag time. I can see the 3 dots appearing. Okay, he has office hours. So she wants to attend his office hours. All right, the next time he offers them, which I think is going to be, she thinks it's going to be next Friday. Okay, great. Now, the next area, what's the next area you want to get smart in? Okay, so the next area, she said, is marketing. And I might even make that more specific, like online marketing, if she's going to have this online homeschooling business. Okay, who does she want to talk to about this? Okay, her brother, Javi. And this is good. Normally, if somebody was saying family member, close friend, I might say, let's stretch a little bit. But it's always okay to start with folks you feel comfortable with. That's okay. But just remember that if we do this and alter, change, pivot, update our mentor matrix with our 5 Get Smart areas, we may want to branch out a little bit. Okay, so Javi, and then what's the action step? Okay, it is to have coffee with him on Wednesday. Perfect. So you can see how this goes. And the next area that I would ask Mechi about is a personal area. Usually I'd like 1 or 2 of the 5 areas, the Get Smart areas, to be personal. If I know the person well, and I know that that's really important to them, whether it's balance, whether it's maintaining close relationships, especially in the wake of the COVID pandemic, we really need that. We can't forget the personal. We can't forget those things which sustain us. So what will happen is Mechi will end up with her goal at the top, 5 Get Smart areas, and 5 people or events. Let's say she doesn't know somebody. She'll have an event she's going to attend and try to find a mentor and get smart herself about that area and find connections. And that last column, action steps. So this is a great way to jumpstart your mentoring matrix, your personal board of advisors, because mentoring is half of the self-efficacy equation. And we know that with self-efficacy, really we can accomplish anything. Challenges, they'll continue to come our way, but self-efficacy stays with us to help us move through and solve those challenges. And that is why mentorship is so key and the answer to all questions for all successful people. Elite entrepreneurs, elite executives, you ask them, many of them are part of formal mentoring groups that meet multiple times per year and usually do a weekend retreat. So try to have mentoring on your top 3 of your to-do list at all times. You don't have to get them all together at once, but be sure you've got 5. They connect with your get smart areas that fall under your goal and that you're acting on them. Great being with you today. Thank you so much. And I look forward to hearing the rest of the speakers.
Have you ever felt that you were not good enough for a position? Do you feel embarrassed if you are praised for your work? Don't miss the next session about how to demystify the impostor syndrome with amazing Eliana Gialain, behavioral scientist at Coach Hub.
So welcome to this Women That Build Talks. And we're going to discuss about this demystifying impostor syndrome in women leadership. And you are going to see why I've chosen demystifying as a way of speaking about this syndrome or this subject. Because there are several things that have been said ultimately about impostor syndrome. And it's being broadly associated with women and particularly women leaders. And I think that is a good moment for us to pause a little bit and check if it really makes sense to associate too much to women leadership, or if this is something that is a natural phenomenon that we all need to deal with. So this is the invitation that I do for you. And the aim here is that at the end of this minutes that we are going to be together, you are going to have a better sense and a better understanding about what the imposter syndrome is, how this can impact your career as a woman leader, and also how coaching can help, because I am senior behavioral scientist from Coach Hub. And of course that one of the main development activities can be exploring this through a coaching process. And then I'm going to give some hints about how this process can be. So let's start with the beginning, right? So in 1978, precisely, 2 psychologists, Pauline and Suzanne, they were very curious about the phenomena that they have been seeing in their therapist consultation with students and professionals, all of them women, that were presenting a kind of difficulty with having success and how to deal with the success. So because of it, they run a research, and they call the impostor phenomenon in high achieving women. And this research was run with a sample of high achieving women that have been selected for this research, that were mainly these women that they were doing psychotherapists with these 2 ladies, these people, they were experiencing an internal experience of intellectual falsity, right? And this syndrome or phenomenon appeared to be particularly prevalent and intense among these women, right? So we're speaking about a research that has been run with the participation of mainly women that were already, I would say, diagnosed with these difficulties in terms of relationship with their success, and they were also high achieving women. So it's a research that has, I will not say a bias, but has already, it's not that type of research that considers a broader population to investigate one subject or one hypothesis or one problem, but was investigated with those subjects that were already suffering from that problem. So it's important to take this, to keep this in mind, because we're going to review this research later on in the presentation. So I wanted to leave you with this question mark. So, oh, that's interesting, but it was a research made with a population already very prone to suffer from these problems, right? So what was these behaviors or feelings that this woman were presenting? It was very frequent on their speech that, oh, someone is going to discover that I'm not so talented for this job, or I just been lucky. This is why I got the promotion, or I should never fail. So these were the thoughts, feelings presenting that woman that were also verified in the research, right? And it was mainly a sense of a matter of feelings of inadequacy, self-doubt, sense of being a fraud that persist despite evident successes. So the combination of these people, they were successful for themselves maybe, but particularly for the others, and they were feeling this type of senses of self-doubt, inadequacy. If I don't persist, I'm going to fail, and someone is going to figure out that I'm not so talented. Then the authors, they have discussed why this could be happening, and they posed that possibly this was related to family dynamics and also introjection, acceptance, right, in the inner world of society, sex role stereotypes. And remember, we were in the 70s. It was still the beginning of our journey as women in taking leadership positions or in growing in our careers in the corporations. So it was making sense that this type of feelings and behaviors and self-doubts, they were related to what we learned inside of our families as related to what is expected as a woman to be and to behave, and also some stereotypes that society, in the social terms, were related also to us as women, right? So after this being published, we've seen that, several, and I've seen this because I was researching some materials for having this discussion with you. This impostor syndrome or impostor phenomenon was then, after this research, a lot associated with this is a woman's problem, right? And in the research itself, the only thing that the authors have mentioned about how this is related to men as well, it was in their clinical experience, not within the research itself. They found that this phenomenon was less frequent or less intense for men. This was the only thing mentioned about men suffering or not suffering of this type of phenomenon, right? So this is the beginning, the origins of what we see nowadays in a broadened spectrum in the articles, business articles, and training offers and mentorship and also coaching for women, helping them to address it. But is that the only true or the only way of approaching this subject? It's been 45 years since this research has been published, right? So we are in 2023. And where we are in this topic. So these were the questions that I posed to myself. And also in considering the experiences that I had, because I've been HR executive for over 20 years, and I've been assisting women leaders, women like me, to cope with very relevant problems in the executives arena, but particularly this imposter syndrome, how this has been really experienced by women. So the questions are where we are in this topic. Has something changed in this last 45 years, particularly in the subject of imposter syndrome? Are there new perspectives on this? What to expect? If this is still valid and this is still something that we have to deal with, and what still needs to be done. So these are the questions that we are going to see some answers and some more reflections on the next content that I prepare for you. So there is one very interesting study run by KPMG in 2020, so very recent, saying that 70% of female executives across industries have experienced imposter syndrome in their careers. So it seems that it is still, by naming it as imposter syndrome and exploring these feelings and thoughts and behaviors. So the first thing that we can see is that, yes, this is still something that we are facing. And particularly in this study, there are some confirmations around it. So 47% of the respondents said that they feel or they have felt self-doubt. 74% believe that their male counterparts do not experience it. So it seems that it's really something more related to us as women leaders or women professionals. And this is very interesting. As a consequence of that, 81% declared that they put more pressure on themselves not to fail. And also, there is another very interesting information coming from this study that 32%, which I think that is low, and I'm going to comment later on this as well, 32% identify it that they feel it or they experience it because they did not know others in a similar place to them. So they enter to play in an arena that in a different level, in an upper level in their organization, and they look around and they don't see so many people like them, women leaders. So they think that they suffer more from this imposter syndrome because of that, which is, I would answer this as yes, which is most probably very, very true. And then this study also explores what can be done to help to reduce it. So the respondents themselves, they said that have a supportive manager helps a lot. To feel valued and being rewarded fairly, because I've been, as I said, HR executive for years. I've been compensation manager. I've been talent management. I've been in all places in HR. And I can say that the pay gap is still something that the companies are working to get better. They are getting better. But there's still a lot to do on this sense, and putting ourselves in this shoes, even if we've been in these shoes as well. So you have the same position as a male counterpart, and you know that you receive less money. So it does not make sense, but it will have an impact on you. The feeling, well, if I am rewarded less than my colleague that is a male, maybe, or the company thinks that I contribute less. So, of course, that here, most probably there is a link of feeling that, so then maybe I'm not good enough, right? So this is something that has to be worked at a company level, not at an individual level, of course. And the last point is these respondents that said that what helps to reduce this feeling, this imposter syndrome feelings or behaviors, individual support, either by mentoring, coaching, or other type of support for their development. And what else this study, what else we can see in the market, in the corporate business, articles and research and publications that can help us to challenge or to have a critical thinking, which is one of the most important skills. I would not say nowadays even more than before, right? Which is what else is written or is said about imposter syndrome and women. So in addition to these two research or publications that we've seen, the one that has started the thing in the 90s, in the 70s, and the study from KPMG, this article from Harvard Business Review says it's a claim more than an affirmation. Stop telling women they have imposter syndrome. So it's almost the opposite that we've seen so far in these two previous research or publications, right? So let's see what is the invitation here and why I think that this also helps us to keep our critical thinking in whatever we read or have in touch. So they said, the authors of this article particularly, they said that that concept has been explored in the first article in research and has been broadly repeated and multiplied year after year. They said that the concept that has been used excluded the effects of systemic racism, classism, xenophobia, and other biases that nowadays, because this article is from 2021, that nowadays we put on the table as well. And I think that is a very fair point here, right? So that study that has been repeated like if it was the single source of truth has considered only the individual point of view, or the individual perspective, without having a thinking or a reflection on what the environment is, how the environment is contributing to it, right? So here is one very fair point of this article. The second point is just a confirmation about it, posing that bias and exclusion exacerbate feelings of doubt, which is absolutely true. And it's something that for whoever here, and I'm sure that all of us, because we are women, because we are coming from Latin America, I'm Brazilian, by the way, because we are coming from Latin America, but because of whatever, we doubt ourselves, or it increases the chance of us doubting ourselves because we are exposed to situations in which bias and exclusion are in place, right? So undoubtedly, this has an impact. And then the third point is, these authors, they said, look, if you are, for instance, new with the job, or as others have reported in the KPMG study, saying, I come and see that the majority are not like me, how come I will not feel discomfort, anxiety, second guessing, right? How come I will not feel that? So these authors, they said, these feelings, these experiences are fairly universal feelings. So by associating too much imposter syndrome and also calling it as syndrome with women, aren't we pathologizing it and putting more heavy weights in the shoulders of ourselves, women leaders? So it's a very important, in my opinion, I like it very much. There's at least to stop and think if it doesn't make sense. So they also said that feeling unsure shouldn't make you an impostor. It's just normal, natural. And of course, being a woman in a system that is still a male driven, so it's going to be even more natural. It's not that it's accepted, but it's natural to feel it. They also said that this concept fails to capture this dynamic and instead put the onus on women, right, as we just discussed. And then this is for me the most critical piece here, which is then the focus, of course, that associating imposter syndrome to women, there are highly accomplished women, talent women, but associating these two things too much leads us to put, the focus on trying to fix that woman instead of working and fixing the places, the conditions. I'm not sure if you agree so far, and I hope that you were following this conversation with a very high attention. But I think that this is a very, very important point. So every time that we speak about our development as professionals, as people, as women, as men, and we associate too much stemples, too much concept around, we have to be very careful, because sometimes this helps to individuate and understand the phenomena behind, but we cannot take it as in a rigid way as truth and valid for everybody, and not understanding the context and the context impacts on this phenomena as well. So I like it very much. And I also recommend you to read this article, because it's very, in my opinion, was very inspiring for me. And I hope it's going to be very inspiring for you as well. And the last point that I wanted to bring to this conversation about this article was two last points. I'm sorry. So how to help. And one of the things that they advocate and that is going to help is to not focus on fixing people, but to creating an environment that fosters different leadership style, more inclusive leadership styles, and an environment that also promotes diversity. So this all together is going to help to improve the situation for women, but also for in general, right? And what this article says about this male woman, is it only for women, is also for male, considering that they said that this is universal to feel anxiety and discomfort when you are one of the single pieces playing that field, right? So they said that as white men progress, their feelings of doubt usually decrease as their work and intelligence are validated over time. This is one affirmation. This will need to be checked by a research, but in my empiric experience, I've seen this happening. So I would say that normally for men to get rid or to pass this self-doubt or this lack of confidence period, it doesn't take too much. And also because why? Because they find role models. There is a context that helps them, because the role models are majority in major terms made by other males that are gonna help them to go through it. And this is an experience that, considering the whole period that I worked with C-suite executives, I would agree with this affirmation that normally male counterparts, they don't question too much the other male's competences, particularly in times of talent review and succession planning discussion. This is an insider information from my side, an insider experience more than information. So I cannot agree more with this affirmation from these authors. So it's good to have, right, this two ways of seeing this this subject, this thing that is super in our plate nowadays. And then I wanted to continue with this discussion, right, around, is this just for women, I'm sorry, it's also affecting men, how this can be dealt with, how we can deal with this situation in a better way. So then we have our Jonathan Passmore is the VP of our coaching lab in Coach Hub. And one of his books, the name is Coach Me. It has a collection of stories and true cases that we can see coaches and coachees across the globe in their, the challenges that coaching have helped them to gather better, right? So this story is called Dealing with Your Demons as a Startup Founder, and it captures the story of Max, that was the coachee, and it was a startup founder in Florida, and Alisa was the coach, and he came to Alisa to say, look, I have this recurring thought, which I can barely admit to myself or to you, right? But I think that what if I'm just at the end of my road, I can build this company up to here, but I'm not going to be able to take it from here. And everyone is gonna to find out. This is almost the key, the password for this situation, right? It's not only when we feel this insecurity or this self-doubt, but we also are afraid of others are going to figure out. So this is almost the password to say, I think that here we have some elements of imposter syndrome, and this is a male leader. And that's why I wanted to bring this case to you. So, as I said, Max was really going through a period that he was dealing with imposter syndrome. And in this book and also in other circumstances, we also advocate that it's a normal experience of many elite performers and entrepreneurs besides the gender. Then we have ways of dealing with by being a woman leader. And I'm going to come back to this point. But just to try to normalize this imposter syndrome and not associate too much with the fact that with being a woman leader. And then as a fatality, you are going to face it. It's not that way. So then Alisa, who is the coach, describes in the book how she helped him to go through it and using some tools and working mainly in building up his confidence and his belief in himself, right? So just a brief story to say that this happens because this is a true story. And I've been in touch with other males that have been through this phase, and it also happens with them. But now let's speak about when this comes to you. Considering the context, considering that this is not an individual problem, considering that because we are women, we may face it really a little bit more than men or in a different way than men because we are building our careers still in a lot male arena. So then I'm calling this session of our conversation here. Next time you feel your demons, as Max needed to deal with his demons. Your demons are raising, and then I'm proposing this joke, saying, let's roll your stones. Let's have a little bit of sympathy for this devil, right? So let's talk with this. Let's talk with ourselves. Let's explore what is going on inside of us. So normally, and again, here I'm giving almost a kind of script or a kind of test check for you to check if your moments of insecurity, self-doubt, if they together, they put you in a situation in which you are experiencing too much or too intense, in a too intense way, this impostor syndrome, the way that we've explored today, right? With no stigma, but the way that we've explored today. So if you constantly experience self-doubt, if you have successes, but you hardly celebrate them, but instead every failure is you condemn yourself deeply, you go to a place that is not really nice, which is self-deprecation. If you are feeling constant stress and you suffer from perfectionism, and it's not that beautiful perfectionism that we normally say when we are in a job interview, yeah, the problem that I have is that I'm too perfectionist. No, but if you are really suffering from that, because perfectionism can block you, prevent you to move forward, right? If you are excessively diligent and caring too much with everything, if you have tendency towards self-exploitation, and this is one of the key hot topics for women in coaching, and I know because I've been coaching several women leaders, and this tendency of self-exploitation, of not limiting or putting boundaries, this is a red flag. And the opposite as well. If you've been very successful, you've been very productive, you like to be very active, and then you find yourself procrastinating too much. Again, because when we procrastinate, there are several situations in which we can procrastinate, but one of them is when we find difficult to deal with the situation in which we are. So again, this can be a sign of you being in a place that you need some help. If you told to yourself or to anyone this kind of affirmation, oh, it's only a matter of time before people realize that I'm not made for this job. This is a super red, pink, and shining, brighting flag. Really listen to yourself and remember to our conversation here and think this is not what you should be thinking, right? So reframe yourself, reflect, and check if you need some help. And the second phrase, it's, oh, it was all just luck. You should never allow yourself to say that, because I am sure that you work a lot. But if this comes to you, again, attention. And also, if there is, objectively speaking, a discrepancy between your own perception about your performance, your worth or value, and what others think on you. So you always receive compliments or positive feedbacks that exceeds your expectation about yourself. This is another sign of attention. And also how another group of signs of attention that I would like to talk to you now is how this can be affecting your career. Again, if you constantly need to prove yourself worthy, of the chance that you've been given. You just received a prize, right? A prize. I'm sorry, not a prize, a prize. You just received a prize. So you are in a moment of, wow, check yourself if this type of situations, thoughts, behaviors, or things come to you. So be attentive if you need to prove yourself worthy. So they gave me a chance, so I need to prove up to that, up to, consumes all my resources, that I was worth of value. Oh, that's another sign of attention. There are some situations in which we see people, and I've seen women maintaining a low profile after a promotion. So the woman enters in this new level and then keeps a low profile because it's insecurity, it's lacking self-confidence. Again, the side to play small is the same way of saying keeping a low profile, constantly over-preparing, freaking out the team and all of, the network about this has to be perfect, because otherwise if they find, if I would be caught in any failure, I'm dead. Oh, no. I am sure I have over 20 years of experience in HR as senior executive. I have to tell you, no, this is not going to happen. But if you feel that, it's a sign. Again, the procrastination. There are other forms of self-sabotage, right, that can derail your career. If you are touching burnout, this is a huge sign of attention. And if you constantly think that resignation will be a way of escaping, that's the ultimate, I would say, the ultimate boundary, the ultimate frontier that you can touch. When you are in the situations, particularly burnout and resignation, as a way of escaping, not as a way of rebuilding your chances or changing, no, then it's a huge sign. And then finally, and with that, we are going to approaching the end of our conversation today. How coaching can help? It can help if you are in this individual situation, considering the context. Never think only that is a problem that is your problem, individually speaking. You are always inside of a context and a system. But if you find yourself in this situation with the things that I've mentioned before, then the coaching can help you to normalize these feelings, right? There is an awesome, super inspiring talk from Herminia Ibarra. She is from INSEAD, and she speaks about authenticity and so on. And she has this phrase that said, what you get you here won't get you there. But she speaks about this moment in which you find yourself in a different level. You got promoted or you got a new assignment, that the skills, capabilities in general that you've used that helped you to get here won't get you there, meaning not necessarily make you ready to really play at a full in this new arena that you are. You can experience this imposter syndrome, which in my experience and opinion is supernatural, but the coaching can help you to position yourself to get out of the situation in which you feel that you are in a trap. Other things that coaching can always help is self-awareness, addressing feelings, behaviors, mindsets, right? What's yours, helping you to separate what's yours individually because of the family, because of some closed systems that you belong to, and what is coming from the environment and from the systemic biases. So coaching can help you to do this cleaning up area exercise. Can help you to recognize your personal successes, to help you to really take in positive feedbacks and accomplishments from others, to strengthen your self-confidence, for sure. There is this thing that I've seen in some coaching processes that I was the coach, helping the other person, and particularly the other woman, to differentiate what is intellectual curiosity and seeking always ways to improve from self-criticism, right? So one thing is to always wanted to improve. Another thing is too much self-criticism. So the coaching can help you to get balanced on that, help you to regain your sense of power, agency, and control over your career, increase capacity to read the political arena and its rules. This is one of the most contextual exercises that can really help you to be in your place of power, find your place of power. Besides that, the arena, the game is played by others that are not alike you. So this is really one of the things that, as coaching goes in an individual level, it can help you a lot. And can help you to increase influence to long-term organizational and social systemic changes. How you as leader, professional as a woman, can help to build a better environment for other women like you and other people, groups of diversity. So this is something that you can also speak about in the coaching that is often related to purpose and legacy. What is the legacy that you want to leave? And then, as I said, support other women, become a role model for them, and help to change, as we are doing, changing the society, because we are changing. We are playing this role. It takes time, but we are very resilient, and I'm sure that you are too. So don't get lost or confused by normal impostor syndromes, periods, feelings, or behaviors. Just reflect on yourself and get some support if you need it. So that's my advice, and have a very great continuity of your career for you and for the others around you. Thank you very much for your attention.
What is entrepreneurship and how does it impact women and minorities? Stay and listen to the inspiring Eliana Bracciaforte, CEO and co-founder of Workana.
Hola, ¿cómo están? Es un gusto estar hoy acá con ustedes dando una charla. Soy Eliana Bracciaforte, cofundadora de Workana, y les quiero contar un poquito de esto que vengo haciendo hace casi 11 años, que es emprender en tecnología, y sobre todo cuando se acercaron a mí de parte de Globant para esta charla, pensé en qué podía compartirles, y justo los últimos 3 años fueron un poquito complejos para nosotros, y creo que esas lecciones que tuvimos y esos aprendizajes que estamos aplicando eran cosas que podían llevárselas y tal vez o evitarlas, o cuando se enfrenten a ellas tal vez resolverlas un poco mejor que nosotros. Y como van a ver por ahí en el diseño de la presentación, es lo que usamos en el último encuentro que tuvimos de líderes de la empresa, a lo cual le llamamos Workana Campamento Base, y es lo que sentimos cuando nos encontramos y cuando llegamos a este evento, es que luego de las turbulencias que tuvimos en los últimos años y en cómo fuimos resolviéndolo y en cómo terminamos en donde estamos hoy, sentimos que llegamos a este campamento base. El campamento base es el que nos da el lugar donde nos hacemos un poquito más fuertes de nuevo para de luego hacer cima y llegar a los objetivos que queremos llegar. Entonces es un poco el tema es ese, ¿no? Es ese camino que hicimos hasta acá y compartirlo con ustedes. Antes de seguir, quería contarles un poquitito más de mí. Tengo 41 años, soy emprendedor en tecnología. Antes de eso, también trabajé unos años en Google, donde también fue mi entrada a este mundo y por eso estoy muy agradecida y soy amante desde la tecnología desde que tengo recuerdo, desde que pude tener una computadora en casa, de esa fortuna de tener una PC. Y también me encanta resolver problemas complejos y creo que la tecnología es una gran herramienta para hacerlo y por eso esa conjunción. En lo personal soy una consumidora de contenidos de todo tipo. Me gustan mucho los videojuegos, leo todo lo que o sea, muchas cosas. Me gusta leer libros, cómics, artículos y también veo muchas series y películas. Lo que falta es tiempo para hacer todo eso. Soy un poquitito activista social, sobre todo de los derechos de las personas LGBT, que es algo que me toca y me atraviesa un poco más, pero en general me gusta y creo que también la tecnología puede ayudar a tener un impacto social y también me interpela desde ese lado. Hoy en la empresa que cofundé, más desde el lado del trabajo y cómo podemos tener impacto transformando el mundo del trabajo desde la tecnología. También asociado a esto último, hablo mucho sobre cómo trabajamos. En Workana venimos hablando de trabajo remoto desde hace 10 años, cuando no era cool o tal vez cuando era demasiado cool. Y tal vez con la pandemia, como todos sabemos, eso cambió. Y me gusta muchísimo hablar de cómo trabajar remoto, cómo hacerlo bien, tratando de salir de las trampas que tiene y de las desventajas para justamente cuando se hace de manera correcta, creo que es algo muy, muy positivo. Pero no es algo que vamos a hablar hoy, así que si quieren, eso es un tema para otra charla. Y acá estoy, ¿no? Luego de 10 años de haber cofundado Workana, todavía en la maratón y construyendo algo que es lo que más me gusta, construir cosas desde cero y tratar de hacerlas crecer. Así que hoy les voy a compartir por ahí el último trecho, pero creo que puede aplicar a todas las etapas, o casi todo aplica a casi todas las etapas de una compañía, así que espero les sirva. Antes de seguir, yo empiezo acá en 2019, lo cual es un poquito tramposo porque no son 3 años, es antes. Pero quería hacer un poco la base del año antes. Y acá es donde nosotros teníamos 6 años ya, casi 7, de haber comenzado la empresa. Teníamos un negocio que crecía. La plataforma, Workana es una plataforma de trabajo remoto, freelance y online, donde se puede hacer trabajos desde cualquier parte y las empresas contratan freelancers y personas que trabajen desde sus casas o remotas, no importa dónde se encuentren, sobre todo en América Latina. Y ese negocio crecía bien, crecía sanamente, estábamos haciendo cosas para hacerlo crecer más, habíamos lanzado una nueva operación de ventas y estaba mostrando mucha promesa. Sumamos key employees muy interesantes para nosotros que ayudaban, que nos traían un montón de conocimientos que no teníamos nosotros en la compañía, entonces eso nos podía potenciar muchísimo. Mi exposición personal llega a un auge. Doy una charla en TEDx Córdoba, que es un TEDx muy grande, donde al frente de un teatro de 1.000 personas, que para mí, además del miedo de hacerlo, fue todo un evento. Y se siente muy bien. O sea, estábamos en un momento de pico, como pongo, ¿no? Pico emprendedor, pico emprending. De alguna manera hicimos un pico. También es un año complejo porque en 2019 fue la primera vez que le dije a alguien que soy una persona trans y eso empieza tal vez una serie de cambios a nivel personal que aunque la vida se cruza, es una sola, no hay una vida personal ni una vida del trabajo. Entonces, obvio que puede afectar al resto. Y ahí es donde también tenemos que ir manejando cuando emprendemos ese equilibrio, ¿no? Entre lo que estamos construyendo en el trabajo y entre lo que estamos construyendo también en casa, pero que es toda una sola cosa que se cruza a todo nivel y que después ese atraviese te ayuda, también te puede ayudar en ambos lados. Así que ahí si quieren, el contexto de desde dónde salimos. Y llega 2020 y como ustedes saben, 2020 es un año diferente a todos en la historia de la humanidad, casi. Llega COVID, llega la pandemia. Acá, si quieren, lo que tal vez hicimos bien es que seguíamos el tema de la pandemia de cerca desde enero ya a febrero. Y planificamos en escenarios posibles en febrero y ya en marzo, cuando se declara, se nota que esto iba a ocurrir, tomamos recaudos para asegurar que la compañía esté sana. Nadie sabía cómo iba a afectar o hasta qué punto iba a llegar, entonces tomamos recaudos que resultaron ser de más una vez que sabemos lo que ocurrió después. Pero eso nos terminó ayudando porque recortamos muchos gastos y además ya veníamos con un plan de, por primera vez en 7 años, tener un EBITDA positivo, tener un resultado positivo, dejar de perder dinero cada mes. Así que fue el primer año que dejamos de perder en Workana. Pero sabíamos que sea como sea, una vez que se empezó a configurar más avanzada la pandemia, que iba a durar varios años. Y eso y que íbamos a entrar y salir o sea, lo que habíamos entendido era que íbamos a entrar y salir de cuarentenas y que iba a ser un poquito errático y difícil, y que esto que no iba a terminarse en julio de 2020. Y eso un poco porque las vacunas iban a demorar y demás, y creíamos que eso iba a ocurrir. Eso se confirma, pero lo que no creíamos tanto, o lo que no habíamos planificado tanto, era lo positivo que podía ser para nosotros y que impactó positivamente en el negocio, porque nosotros ofrecíamos personas que trabajaban desde su casa y teníamos un montón de talento que además ayudaba a las empresas a digitalizarse y a vender online. Entonces tuvimos un impacto muy positivo en el negocio. Y creo que hasta ahora todo lo que conté de 2020 es positivo, pero lo que pasó fue que no supimos aprovechar del todo eso que fue tan positivo para nosotros. Tratamos de hacer una ronda de inversión en el sudeste asiático. Nosotros, algo que me faltó contarles del pico de emprendedores, que mi socio se había mudado a Asia, ya teníamos una operación que habíamos empezado. Mi socio y CEO de la compañía se va a vivir a Malasia para tratar de que ese negocio empiece a crecer más y más rápido. Y ese era uno de nuestros grandes focos también. Y intentamos levantar una ronda en 2020, pero con foco en Asia, y ese plan falló totalmente. Nuestro negocio de Latinoamérica era el 90%, 95% del total. Entonces, para los inversores de Asia, el negocio de allí era muy pequeño. Entonces no era algo que les interesara tanto, o tendríamos que haber mostrado más promesa de que ese negocio iba a crecer a una velocidad mayor. Y entonces la decisión tal vez de enfocarnos en ese mercado para hacer una nueva ronda de inversión en ese momento no era tan positiva, y tal vez otros planes hubieran resultado en algo que nos trajera el resultado que queríamos. Entonces nos encontramos que ese intento de ronda falla. Y ahí vamos a 2021. Ya entrada totalmente la pandemia, en algún momento empiezan a llegar vacunas. Todavía el mundo, sobre todo en la primera parte de 2021, y diría casi todo 2021, con muchísimo dinero de inversión. Entonces había oportunidades claras de levantar una ronda para poder acelerar el crecimiento que teníamos. Y y acá lo primero que hicimos empezando 2021 es que nosotros, varios de los key employees, dos de los tres key employees que habíamos contratado en 2019 se van. Ellos eran como una dupla y eso ya nos pega, entonces tratamos de rearmar el equipo de management pensándolo un poquito diferente, más especializado, y eso tiene parcial éxito. Tiene éxito del lado de la mentalidad que le pusimos a cómo armarlo, y algunos de los hires fueron muy exitosos, otros no tanto, lo cual es esperable, así que eso no lo contaría tanto como una falla muy grande, aunque siempre duele y tiene demasiado impacto cuando fallan estas contrataciones. Y también lo que pasa en 2021 es que yo empecé mi transición de género y hacia casi mitad de ese año le cuento a la compañía, a Workana, al equipo, sobre mí, y tengo un gran recibimiento, y luego cerca de fin de año le cuento lo hago público, y eso me ordena también a mí, me empieza a llevar a otro lugar a nivel personal, y me libera de un montón de cosas, y creo que también termina siendo positivo para que pueda trabajar mejor y más tranquila, pero también yo tomé una cierta posición de trabajar más hacia adentro. No, yo era la portavoz de Workana siempre acá en América Latina, entonces dejé de hacerlo también por una decisión personal, y bueno, son esos impactos que yo hablaba antes de cómo el ámbito personal termina tocando, ¿no? Y aunque esté bien, tenemos que entenderlo y manejarlo y ver qué decisiones tomamos alrededor de eso. Lo que pasó en 2021 a nivel negocio es que, y esto puede pasar en cualquier emprendimiento, es que nuestro negocio tradicional, la plataforma, que les conté que en 2019 todavía crecía luego de 6 años, se nos hizo difícil que continuara haciéndolo. En 2020 habíamos tenido un año distinto, con la pandemia acelerando incluso el crecimiento. Fue récord total, y fue un crecimiento muy grande de revenues, pero en 2021 esto parecía como que íbamos a crecer muy poquito. Hicimos un montón de cosas para que eso cambiara y no estábamos teniendo el impacto que queríamos, y ahí es cuando empezamos a pensar que ese negocio tal vez no iba a crecer, y aceptarlo fue bastante difícil porque es nuestro mayor negocio, y que si quisiéramos hacer que vuelva a un lugar de crecimiento, y llevaba mucho más recursos de los que teníamos. Y nosotros, aunque teníamos todavía una caja, no era suficiente como para llevar a cabo algo como eso. Y durante la segunda mitad de 2021 empezamos una búsqueda de nueva ronda de inversión. Habíamos aprendido un montón de cosas de lo que había fallado en 2020, lo hicimos mucho mejor. En eso sí habíamos aprendido, buscamos gente de consultoras que nos ayude, hicimos un listado completo de potenciales inversores, contactamos a todos los potenciales de muchísimos ámbitos, tuvimos un montón de conversaciones. El mercado estaba caliente, o sea, el mercado estaba bien como para que buscáramos inversión todavía. Y entonces tuvimos muchas conversaciones que avanzaron muchísimo, hasta que una llegó a la firma de una carta de intención, que se llama un LOI, Letter of Intent. Y esto es cuando entramos en un proceso ya donde quien quiere invertir empieza a chequear que todo en la compañía esté bien, y que todo lo que decimos y contamos en una presentación de PowerPoint sea verdadero y demás. Y ese proceso avanzó, tal vez más lento de lo que nos hubiera gustado. Estamos ya en diciembre. Y aunque ese chequeo daba perfecto y demás, lo que nos pasó fue que estos aprendizajes que tuvimos entre 2020, el primer intento de ronda, y 2021, y que empezamos en realidad a levantar la ronda en 2021 ya a mitad, en julio, el timing. Eso es otra cosa que cuando emprendemos, el timing tiene muchísimo efecto, y elegir cuándo avanzamos con algo o cuándo no puede cambiarte totalmente. Y aunque la inversión era excelente para nosotros, cuando cambia el contexto y el mercado empieza a achicarse y la Fed en Estados Unidos empieza a subir las tasas, ahí es cuando todos los inversores empiezan a repensar si van a hacer las inversiones que dijeron que iban a hacer, y además empieza la guerra en Ucrania y eso también enfría aún más la situación, por lo que nuestro potencial inversor decide no continuar con la misma. Y esto nos deja en tal vez el peor lugar que hemos estado en estos 10 años. Que es empezando 2022. En febrero de 2022 se cae la inversión. Cuando uno firma una carta de intención, tenés que dejar de conversar con otros potenciales inversores. Generalmente estas cartas de intención se mantienen y la inversión se da, o sea, es siempre generalmente más probable que no ocurra lo que nos pasó. Pero cuando nos encontramos en marzo sin la inversión y con una caja totalmente debilitada, estábamos en una situación muy difícil. Ahí tuvimos que salir a buscar ayuda de nuestros inversores actuales para reforzar nuestra caja y así asegurar la supervivencia de la compañía. En ese momento también teniendo un negocio tradicional que no crecía y el negocio de ventas que sí lo hacía, elegimos dentro del negocio de ventas cuáles creíamos que eran los negocios más sanos y más saludables para la compañía e hicimos un foco mayor en ese tipo de negocios. Pero tal vez con el golpe de la inversión, de la no inversión, no lo hicimos tan a fondo. Habíamos quedado moralmente golpeados y las decisiones grandes las tomamos, pero no a fondo. Y eso tal vez resultó en que esa equivocación resultó en que no lográramos los resultados que queríamos para julio de 2022. Y tuvimos que en julio reestructurar la compañía para asegurar que tuviéramos caja para la potencial recesión y el enfriamiento del mercado que veíamos por delante. Entonces, fue la decisión más difícil que hemos tomado y por eso duele un montón, pero aunque entendemos que era necesario, esas pequeñas equivocaciones y también contextos, ¿no? O sea, hay mucho que no controlamos, otras cosas que sí, terminan resultando en este escenario. Y es ahí donde nos encontramos, ¿no? En julio, agosto de 2022, en una situación donde la compañía se achica, donde tenemos que pensar dónde estamos parados a nivel negocio y un poco rearmamos todo. Ahí es donde ese foco que habíamos definido en inicio de 2022, en marzo, lo enfocamos aún más. Tenemos apuestas más claras y las que creemos más seguras. Y ese foco también se siente bien porque ayuda a que no estemos teniendo un montón de conversaciones que tal vez creemos que no tienen valor. El valor de tener un foco más claro y menor, o más chico si quieren, es altísimo y es difícil de entender a veces cuando estamos emprendiendo porque queremos tener varias puertas abiertas y potenciales resultados que nos puedan ayudar a crecer, pero a veces el valor del foco es demasiado grande como para dejarlo de lado. Entonces mantenemos el foco, seguimos reorganizando los equipos incluso después de la reestructuración, entendiendo dónde podíamos cada persona agregar más valor. La compañía más chica y el foco mayor ayudan un montón a que se liberen un montón de tiempos, que trabajemos mejor, que podamos entender más claramente qué procesos hay que tocar y cómo organizarlos para que se den de otra manera. Eso nos da un montón de ímpetu y de entender de una vez que hacer mejor las cosas tiene un valor altísimo. Empezamos a tener algunos resultados claros de que el negocio que habíamos elegido era muy prometedor. El foco que tenemos hoy más grande, si quieren, es tenemos una cantidad enorme de personas que todos los meses se registran en Workana. En enero tuvimos más o menos 20.000 desarrolladores que hicieron registro en la plataforma. Entonces, ese activo que tiene Workana lo queremos utilizar para entender quiénes de ellos son desarrolladores que podrían trabajar con compañías y startups de tecnología de Latinoamérica, o de Estados Unidos y conseguirles un trabajo con esas empresas. Así que ese es el foco que tenemos más grande, aunque tenemos también la plataforma tradicional y algunos otros clientes. Y yo también empiezo, después de julio de 2022, empiezo un poquito a tener una vida pública nuevamente, ya me animo a salir y a hablar de Workana, de nosotros, de lo que estamos haciendo y creo que eso se sintió muy bien, eso que estoy haciendo hoy acá, se siente bien volver. Y con esos resultados y con ese equipo más organizado, ese equipo más pequeño pero más enfocado, nos sentimos llegando a diciembre que habíamos hecho base. O sea, llegamos a la base de lo que necesitábamos para que los resultados se den. Y si se mira para atrás, se siente como, wow, ¿por qué fue tan difícil llegar hasta acá? Pero sería sacarle mérito a las dificultades que tuvimos. Obvio, nos hubiera gustado tomar algunas decisiones mejor, pero también los aprendizajes son muy grandes y hoy estamos en otro lugar. Entonces estábamos en ese campamento base luego de años tumultuosos. 2022 fue un año particularmente que se sintió como un huracán, pero hoy en enero ya estamos en un lugar diferente. El equipo de líderes que tenemos y todo el equipo de Workana es muy fuerte, entonces ahora sí creemos que podemos hacer cima y es así como se siente acá para adelante. Esa es la conclusión de estos 3 años y algunos aprendizajes. Espero que puedan sacar algún valor de la experiencia que tuve yo, que tuvimos en Workana. Si quieren, tal vez esta pregunta la pueden responder mejor ustedes, si es mejor emprender o no. Lo que yo opino, y esto tómenlo o no, pero creo que emprender no es para todos. Es un camino bastante complejo, largo en general, y creo que tiene muchas subidas y bajadas y puede ser bastante frustrante y complejo, ¿no? Pero también tiene el lado de construir algo de cero, de construir algo que las personas quieran, de tener algún impacto diferente en lo que nosotros queremos tenerlo. Entonces tiene tantas cosas tan buenas que también y apela muchísimo, ¿no? Nos apela a ir y también se disfruta. O sea, a quienes nos gusta la complejidad o resolver cosas complejas, tenemos que entender que eso también conlleva situaciones difíciles. Y también creo que lo importante acá es entender que emprender no es las historias que a veces leemos, sino que puede ser corto y exitoso, en 3 años vender la compañía carísima, pero en general nunca va a ser fácil, eso seguro, y la mayoría de las veces es una maratón. Y cuando entendés que es una maratón, ahí descubrís que mantener ese ritmo, ser constante, acompañar toda tu vida, no poner todo adentro del emprendimiento, sino que entender que tu vida es todo y el emprendimiento es parte de tu vida, te va a ayudar un montón a que las cosas se den mejor. Y con eso les agradezco un montón haberme escuchado hoy. Muchísimas gracias y cualquier cosa me pueden contactar en Twitter, estoy como Brachas, o en LinkedIn también. Muchísimas gracias, un saludo.
Did you know that there are different types of leadership? Find out which one is yours from Udemy Chief Learning Officer Melissa Daimler.
Hello, everyone. My name is Melissa Daimler, and I am the Chief Learning Officer at Udemy. I am excited to be part of this event focused on highlighting and empowering women leaders. I'm going to talk about an exciting topic today, and it's around evolving your leadership style. And I say evolving because our leadership style continues to evolve throughout our career. I'm going to touch on a few things today. So today's agenda includes 4 primary areas. We're going to talk about my own story about being a leader and a leader who has influenced me and my style of leadership throughout my career. We're going to talk about the 5 leadership styles. There are many different leadership styles out there, but we're going to talk about 5 main ones that you might be familiar with and that will help you identify yours. We're then going to talk a little bit about what I call personal culture and setting up your own system to develop and continue to develop and evolve yourself as a leader. And then we're going to help you build yours and, again, help you identify ways that you continue to develop your leadership style. And I'll give you next steps to focus on. So I have been lucky to have a wonderful career in tech over 20 years at Adobe, Twitter, WeWork, and now Udemy. I have also recently written a book on organizational culture and how culture starts with each of us as leaders first. When I talk about leadership styles, one of the things I like to ask is, who is a leader who you admire? For me, it's Donna Morris. She is the EVP and head of people at Walmart. She was my boss at Adobe, and she taught me the basics of leadership. Her style was a mix of transformational and coaching-oriented, which I will get into later. I first met Donna in Ottawa, Canada in January about 20 years ago. Adobe was in the process of acquiring Excelio, and Donna was the CHRO of that company. There were about 10 of us on the Adobe acquisition team who were visiting her office, and we were there to learn a little bit about her and her HR team. When Donna shared her presentation, instead of just first showing us the HR strategy and overview, she began talking about the company strategy first. She shared its mission. She then went into detail about the business, how the company made money, who their primary customers and competitors were, and concerns that she hoped would be addressed when we acquired the company. She did talk about the organizational structure, clarifying each role and how they contributed to the business and worked with each other as real people partners. She talked about the executive team and focusing on how their partnership with the HR team helped the entire company. This was a defining moment in my career. Donna was an HR leader, but she was a business leader first. She was a systems thinker. And that lesson of always understanding the greater whole, of being clear about the business strategy, regardless of your role, has remained with me throughout my career. She has been a fundamental tenet of my approach and my leadership style and how I work. So as I said before, there are a lot of different leadership styles out there. I think, as I was researching this before this session, I counted over 30 different leadership styles. The point of this session is not to name and memorize the different styles, but to give you a sense of the type of leader that you want to be. The more we understand leadership and ourselves, the better leader we can be for others. Before I dive in, I want to do a quick plug and a little humble brag here about Udemy's content on leadership styles. We have over 3,500 courses on this topic, so clearly it's popular. I have taken Dr. Priya Nalkar's course. She provides a good overview of the topic. She shares specific examples and also includes some exercises for you to reflect on your own leadership style. So it is one of the next steps that I recommend you do after this session. Dr. Nalkar talks about leadership style as a reflection of the behaviors, the energy, and thinking we consistently present to the world. How we define ourselves determines how we live and influence others. I think that's a great quote. I define leadership as also a set of practices and behaviors that not only helps individuals, but it helps organizations develop and become more effective overall. When I think about leadership styles, there are 5 that I think are the most relevant and represent some of the leaders like Donna Morris and other mentors that I've had throughout my career. I'm going to go through each one of those now. The authoritarian leader makes decisions by themselves. They tend to be controlling. They get into a lot of the details of your business, and they're not a leader that typically empowers you to strengthen your own leadership. The transformational leader is one that inspires others. They have a strong vision. This is one of the styles Donna Morris had for me. She had a vision for how the acquisition was going to be successful. She had a vision for how HR needs to be run from a business-led focus. The collaborative leader is somebody who includes others with decisions and strategic direction. They have a point of view, but they want to include their team and others in the process of not only making decisions, but making sure that everybody is involved in defining those key objectives. The coaching leader is similar to the collaborative leader, but they also ask really good questions. They're good listeners. They guide you to the right decisions without giving you the answer themselves. And then the servant leader is a person and a leader who helps people fulfill their potential. So again, take a minute to think about which style you are. We are, by the way, a combination of all of these skills. I tend to be more of a coaching and collaborative leader, but I have been known to be an authoritarian leader with employees who perhaps were earlier in their career, who needed more guidance on how to work. So at some point, I think we can tap into all of these leadership styles, but there are 1 or 2 that you express more than others. We just celebrated MLK Day here in the United States yesterday, and there were a lot of great quotes about Martin Luther King Jr. He practiced nonviolence. He knew what he stood for. He had principles of justice and humanity. He was of service to others. He was a servant leader. He was also a transformational leader. You know, if you listen to some of his speeches, they're all about transforming how we think about ourselves and how we can work and be with each other. I'm going to pause here. I know I've been asking this question several times throughout this talk, but I do believe that reflection is a strong part of the learning process. Good leaders are always taking inventory of themselves and reflecting. I want you to pause and stop to think about these questions. One of the things I realized throughout my career is that different jobs, different situations, different roles called for different leadership styles. So think about these questions. Which leadership style is the most effective from your point of view? Think about the leaders that most impacted you. Why were they so impactful? How were they effective in helping you be more effective as an individual and perhaps even as a leader yourself? What leadership style is the least effective for you? And can you think of somebody who was that style in working with you? Which style do you like leaders to use with you most? And then again, the question that I keep asking, what leadership style best describes you? We're going to move on to something that I call personal culture. I believe that we are always evolving and building our cultures, and I call that reculturing. Just like we reculture our organization, we need to reculture ourselves. I personally reculture quarterly and do a major review annually. I review my system and figure out what no longer serves me, and then create or update new practices and behaviors that will. So, just as an organizational culture informs the strategy and how employees accomplish it, a personal culture informs how we achieve our goals, prioritize our days, and show up with others. So an organizational culture is not just about your values. It's also about your behaviors, your practices, and your processes. So our personal culture informs our leadership style. Having a personal culture forces a conscientiousness of our own behaviors. It ensures that we remain vigilant to our personal values and behaviors while being stewards for the organizational ones at our work. Once leaders know, once you all know and have articulated a personal culture, you can more intentionally design both your personal and organizational one. A strong personal culture is made up of the following three components: your why, your purpose, your how, your values, behaviors, and practices, and your what, your goals. When I think about leadership styles and the personal culture, I think of ourselves as being that really important resource and instrument. Psychologist Warner Burke, one of the most important leaders in the field of organizational development, coined the term that gave the class its name at my graduate school. It means going beyond self-awareness. It is an active use of our awareness when we are working with and leading others. Self as instrument reminds us that behind all of these slides, behind the frameworks, behind the theories, it all comes down to us. Self as instrument is a reminder that we need to start with our own system in order to impact and influence the organizational one. Every person can lead, but leading effectively starts with the first understanding about ourselves and our own culture. So let's get back to those components I mentioned about a personal culture. So you can see here that, again, it is made up of your purpose, your values and behaviors, practices, which are your how, and your goals, which are your what. I have outlined here some ways to come up with our purpose. This can be a very daunting task. It's something that, a lot of people get stuck on. So I have laid out here some prompts for you to consider when thinking about developing your purpose. So what are your stories? I just shared a story with you in the beginning. Think about some stories and meaningful moments from your past. Not only who has influenced you, but how have you influenced others? What are some ways that you've really made an impact? And on the opposite side of that, what frustrates you? What change would you like to see in the world? What is your leadership style? How might that contribute to your why and your purpose? And then when you're really in the flow, when you're doing something that gives you a lot of energy, you lose track of time, what are you doing? that probably contributes to your purpose as well. We have a one-pager that we can send out after this, which includes some of these questions for you to fill out. So I'm just going to share an overview of my purpose and then some of the values that I've identified. So my purpose is to design healthy systems that help us become better leaders at work and in the world. Some of my values that you can see here are health, adventure, design, and humor. I'm all about levity and a good laugh. And so when we think about our personal culture, there are things that you can think about with regard to that. So I'll give you an example based on some of the values I just shared. One of the most important values to me is health. The behaviors that I have around that, one includes I work out consistently. A practice for that is that I go to the gym 5 days a week. Another behavior that I have around health is I put healthy food and thoughts into my body. A practice is I use a food app and I meditate daily. And then I track my food intake through that app. And so those are just examples of how after you define your purpose and you think about your goals, you can set up a system to reinforce all of that with your personal culture. One of the things that I encourage you to do as you're building your personal culture and leading you to your leadership style is to ask others for feedback. Ask them how you come across. Share with your team, share with your colleagues, share with a best friend what those 5 leadership styles are and some of the ways that you're building your personal culture to reinforce that. I do believe that work is the best learning lab for our daily experiences. And it is through our daily experiences that we can build our own learning curriculum. We learn what works about our leadership. We learn what doesn't work. We understand where we get energy based on that form I just shared with you. And we continue to iterate along the way based on feedback we're getting throughout our career. So as you think about your own leadership style and how you want to show up, I'm sharing some steps to consider next for you to focus. Build out your own personal culture and identify the leadership style that you think most resonates with you. Again, we will share a one-pager to help you guide you through those questions. Ask your team, your colleagues, your best friend for feedback, and then continue to spend time to learn, reflect, and iterate on your leadership style as you continue to grow as a leader in your career. I'd love to continue this conversation. I can be connected with on Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn if you want to continue the conversation. And if you have any questions, I'd love to hear what your leadership style is and how you're continuing to build that along with your own personal culture. Thank you.
Stay for the next session and learn how to boost your LinkedIn profile with the expert Teodora Stoyanova, Enterprise Account Director LATAM and Coach Hub.
Hola, muy buenos días y bienvenidas a la sesión de Roquea tu perfil de LinkedIn. Mi nombre es Teodora Stoyanova y soy directora de cuentas en Coach Hub, donde ayudo a mis clientes a transformar y empoderar sus líderes a través de coaching. Además, soy embajadora de Rock Your LinkedIn Profile. Y ahí, justo en esta sesión, es lo que vamos a tratar. Usar LinkedIn para crear una marca personal fuerte es mucho más que tener una foto bonita. Se requieren algunas sencillas prácticas, estrategias para conseguir visibilidad, promover vuestra cultura empresarial, vuestra marca empleadora o simplemente crear ese network potente de profesionales. Usar LinkedIn para crear una marca personal fuerte va mucho más allá de tener una foto bonita de perfil. Se requieren algunas estrategias, algunas simples estrategias y prácticas para ganar visibilidad, promover la cultura empresarial o, bueno, ser embajadoras de vuestras empresas o simplemente tener un perfil 10 en LinkedIn y crear una fuerte red de contactos profesionales. Si yo os pregunto, ¿qué es lo que haríais con una solicitud de conexión de este perfil? Estoy segura que la gran mayoría de vosotras me diríais, yo no lo acepto porque no me dice nada, no me transmite nada. Y tenéis razón y hacéis bien. Cuando vemos esos perfiles en LinkedIn, la recomendación es que no los aceptemos, porque a menos que nos manden un correo o sea, un mensaje y nos digan por qué nos están conectando. Pero la recomendación es que no los aceptemos, porque al aceptar un perfil, sin una foto, sin una descripción, sin una experiencia laboral, damos acceso a todos nuestros contactos en LinkedIn. Estoy segura, si os enseño este perfil, la mayoría de vosotras me diríais, hombre, este tiene más información, tiene una foto, tiene una descripción, pues yo a esta persona le aceptaría. Y es así, ¿vale? Recomendamos que en este caso cuando haya un perfil un poco más lleno, con más información, pues sí que conectemos con esta persona. Entonces, ¿cuáles son los pasos para tener este perfil 10 en LinkedIn y crear esa marca profesional personal fuerte en la red? El primer paso, ¿vale? Es la foto. Y como decimos, una foto vale más que 1000 palabras. Entonces, es importante que sea una foto que pueda transmitir a vuestra personalidad, cómo os definís como profesionales, como persona, que sea amable, cercana, para que invite que la gente quiera conectar con vosotras. Un perfil con una foto tiene mucho más visibilidad, o sea, tiene más visitas, tiene más solicitudes de conexión. Evidentemente, eso también te lleva a recibir más mensajes. Y además os voy a dar un tip pro, que es configuréis vuestro perfil de tal manera que la foto sea visible para todo el mundo, porque vais a ganar mucha más conexión con profesionales, con gente de vuestro trabajo, potenciales clientes, proveedores, etcétera. Lo que os voy a pedir es que no pongáis fotos con vuestros hijos, con vuestras mascotas, con vuestros seres queridos. LinkedIn no es la red social para poner ese tipo de fotos. Aquí lo que queremos es transmitir, como os digo, vuestra marca profesional. Y os puedo asegurar que se puede ver de todo, ¿no? Pero bueno, nosotras os animo que, bueno, pues tengamos un perfil 10. Aquí os pongo un ejemplo de mi propio perfil. En primer lugar está la foto de perfil, que como hemos dicho, que sea profesional, amable, cercana, y el fondo de perfil. En este caso yo pongo el fondo de Coach Hub porque me representa con la misión que tiene la empresa en la que estoy actualmente. En este fondo de perfil podéis poner incluso una foto de vuestra ciudad natal, de alguna frase que os inspira, de algún personaje de alguien que digamos que os motiva, que inspira y demás. Hay una cosa muy interesante que muchos de los usuarios de LinkedIn todavía no saben, que podéis ver al lado de mi nombre, sale como una especie de altavoz. De esta manera podéis grabar vuestro nombre y pronunciarlo de la manera que os gustaría que os llamaran, porque estoy seguro que a más de una os ha pasado ir a una reunión o tener que decir el nombre de alguien y decir, bueno, es que no sé ni cómo pronunciarlo, ¿vale? Entonces, es algo novedoso y yo os animo que lo aprovechéis. Por ejemplo, si queréis hacer una prueba, podéis ir a mi perfil, Teodora Stoyanova, y darle al altavoz para que escuchéis cómo lo pronuncio. Luego está el titular que veis justo debajo del nombre. En este titular lo que queremos es resumir qué es lo que aportamos como profesionales, ¿vale? ¿Cuáles son esos temas que nos identifican? Tiene que ser algo breve, que tenga un gancho, que sea catchy y evidentemente tiene que ser 100% vosotras. Yo me identifico con, bueno, pues que estoy ayudando a empresas en América Latina a desarrollar, a empoderar sus líderes a través de coaching. Y además, creo que, bueno, me identifico con LinkedIn Alumni porque si no, pues bueno, no estaría aquí hablando de LinkedIn. Una vez que tengamos esta parte, vamos a la parte del resumen. En este resumen, donde podemos escribir un poco más sobre nuestra trayectoria profesional, ¿vale? Es como si fuese vuestro elevator pitch. Si alguien os despertase y os preguntase, pero ¿y tú qué representas? ¿A qué te dedicas? ¿Quién eres? Que lo hagas en 40 palabras. Siempre pensad que es un extracto corto, ¿vale? Entonces aquí tenemos que ser concisos con la información. En la parte de la experiencia vamos a poder escribir un poquito más, pero a lo que me refiero es que no digamos profesional titulada con más de 20 años de experiencia en ventas, porque es algo que no aporta valor. La gente no entendería qué es lo que hacemos. Si vamos a la parte de la experiencia laboral, donde os pido que detalléis y que deis un poco más de información, lo que os recomiendo es que habléis en primera persona. La protagonista sois vosotras. Y además, esos logros que habéis conseguido en vuestros roles los habéis conseguido vosotras. Entonces, siempre contamos en primera persona qué es lo que hacemos, qué servicio ofrecemos, para qué empresa trabajamos, cuál es la misión, los objetivos que tenemos como profesionales. Entonces, aquí podéis extenderos un poco más, podéis evidentemente pues, escribir por cada experiencia, dar algo de visibilidad también sobre la empresa en la que estáis, ¿vale? A lo mejor también yo he visto en algunos perfiles que explican por qué han tomado esta nueva aventura de sumarse al proyecto, por ejemplo, de Globant, de Coach Hub, etc. Luego hay una parte que creo que también todavía mucha gente no la utiliza y repito, una palabra o un vídeo vale más que 1000 palabras. Y esa es la parte de añadir contenido audiovisual en vuestros perfiles. Justo debajo de vuestra experiencia, de cada experiencia que vayáis añadiendo en el perfil, vais a tener la posibilidad de subir fotos, presentaciones, vídeos, white papers, lo que tengáis, ¿no? Cualquier material visual. Yo os recomiendo que lo hagáis porque eso hace vuestro perfil mucho más atractivo y cuenta vuestra historia, vuestra trayectoria profesional, pues de un simple vistazo. Y además, os puedo decir que no mucha gente utiliza esta parte, así que bueno, pues evidentemente vuestro perfil marcaría la diferencia. Por último, lo que os pido es que pidáis recomendaciones. No seamos tímidas. Aquí lo que os pido es que pidáis recomendaciones pues, a vuestros gerentes, a vuestros clientes, a vuestros partners, a gente que trabaja de la mano con vosotros, con vosotras. Eso da evidentemente mucha más credibilidad y cuando pidáis esas referencias, esos endorsements, le podéis recordar a las personas qué es lo que habéis hecho por ellos, cómo les habéis ayudado, en qué proyectos habéis trabajado, etcétera. ¿No? Es una manera de validar vuestras habilidades y vuestra experiencia laboral. Yo de verdad os animo que lo hagáis. Evidentemente no queremos pues, tener a 20.000 personas, pero personas claves y estratégicas. Resumimos. Entonces, son 7 pasitos que tenemos que dar para tener ese perfil 10 de LinkedIn. En primer lugar, foto profesional, mostrando la profesional que somos, cercana, amable. Foto de fondo. Esa foto puede ser pues, lo que os motiva a vosotras, lo que os anima, lo que os inspira. El encabezado. Escribe un título llamativo que tenga ese ganche para que la gente quiera quedarse en tu perfil. Piensa que la foto y el encabezado es lo primero que van a ver. En el resumen, es un espacio para que cuentes tu historia, cuál es tu misión como profesional, hacia dónde vas, cuál es el valor que aportas al ambiente laboral. En la experiencia podéis enumerar, pues evidentemente, todas vuestras experiencias, pero aquí yo os animo que escribáis un poquito más y que habléis en primera persona. Yo lidero un equipo de ventas. Yo he conseguido que este proyecto de liderazgo femenino salga adelante. Gracias a la contribución de mi equipo, la empresa ha conseguido X resultados. Contenido audiovisual. Aquí os animo a que pongáis las fotos más bonitas que tengáis de vuestras actividades con vuestros equipos, fotos que ha publicado vuestra empresa en LinkedIn, vuestras propias fotos. Y por último, los endorsements o recomendaciones. Validemos nuestra experiencia profesional y nuestras habilidades. Una vez que tengamos ese perfil 10, os estáis preguntando, vale, estupendo, ¿y ahora qué puedo hacer con esto? Pues aquí os voy a dar algunos tips de cómo fortalecer vuestro network, crear conversación, comunidad con otras personas, con otros profesionales en el mundo entero. Al final, LinkedIn es una red global que nos permite conectar con personas de cualquier punto del mundo. Y además también nos da la posibilidad de que se escuche nuestra voz. Entonces, lo que os recomiendo es que sigáis las empresas que os interesan. Por ejemplo, aquí pongo Globant. Además, vosotras podéis controlar qué tipo de notificaciones vais a recibir de cada empresa, si queréis que os salte un aviso cuando publiquen cualquier cosa o de vez en cuando. Yo siempre os animo que utilicéis, dado que ya tenéis un equipo de marketing que publica en vuestras páginas de vuestras empresas, aprovechad ese contenido. Simplemente le podéis dar un toque personal, una opinión personal y compartáis el vídeo, la foto o lo que hayan publicado en vuestra página. Además, os animo a que os unáis a grupos para que podáis crear una red profesional, una comunidad donde podéis conectar con otras mujeres que tienen objetivos, experiencias, motivaciones similares a las vuestras. Y aquí os invito que os unáis al grupo que hay en LinkedIn, Women That Build, donde pues, vamos a estar todas y vamos a poder compartir experiencias, artículos, opiniones y podemos estar conectadas. Y la parte creo que es más importante, que es que compartamos nuestra opinión, nuestro punto de vista, ¿vale? ¿Qué es lo que seguramente os estáis preguntando, Teodora, pero ¿y qué compartimos? Entonces, podemos compartir noticias y actualizaciones de la empresa en la que estáis trabajando, de aquellas empresas que os gustan, que os inspiran, que publican temas que son relevantes, pues por ejemplo, como diversidad e inclusión de género, algunas actividades que hacen algunas empresas, o sea, lo que os toca a vosotras personalmente y profesionalmente. Noticias de la industria. Pues, por ejemplo, hablar de Woman That Build en la industria tecnológica. Eso es algo bonito, conecta, os va a conectar con muchas más mujeres y además, bueno, pues os da visibilidad, ¿no? Por todo el trabajo que estáis haciendo. Eventos, team activities, cualquier, digamos, actividad o alguna noticia sobre la cultura empresarial. También pensad que vosotras, como mujeres poderosas, también sois las embajadoras de las marcas que representáis. Entonces, es importante tener esa voz o ese punto de vista. Os cuento un caso muy interesante. Hace poco estuve en una charla donde justo se hablaba de mujeres de ventas en la industria tecnológica. Y se entrevistaba a gente que tiene más experiencia y además también había una chica muy jovencita que le preguntaron, ¿no? Pues, ¿cómo decidiste tú unirte a la empresa X? ¿No? Y ella dijo, pues porque vi en LinkedIn que primero el equipo de liderazgo estaba formado por mujeres. Las mujeres, las líderes, eran muy activas en LinkedIn y publicaban sobre las cosas que hacen con los equipos, publicaban cuáles son los valores de la empresa, escribían. Entonces, esto al final es algo con lo que yo me identifiqué y dije, yo quiero estar en una empresa en la que evidentemente hay liderazgo femenino, se hacen diferentes cosas, se tiene en cuenta la empleada. Entonces, también os digo que, bueno, pues de esa manera también podéis conocer un poco más a la persona, ¿no? Pues según lo que vaya publicando, los artículos y demás. Aquí os pongo unos ejemplos muy bonitos que he encontrado en la página de Globant, ¿vale? Además, en Globant, bueno, pues tenéis ejemplos de mujeres poderosas, de mujeres muy activas en las redes sociales. Entonces, puede ser, como os digo, ya algún comentario, puede ser alguna entrevista en la que habéis participado, alguna mención a la empresa porque estáis orgullosas de lo que ha hecho la empresa, cualquier cosa que sea importante y relevante para vuestro perfil profesional. ¿Y cuáles son las mejores prácticas para esas publicaciones, para esas actualizaciones? Yo lo que os animo y os pido que seamos auténticas, evidentemente con cuidado, sin meternos a lo mejor en conflictos políticos y demás, o en ideologías, pero que seamos nosotras mismas, nuestro punto de vista auténtico. Que publiquéis con frecuencia, ¿vale? Pues una vez a la semana, un par de veces a la semana. Como os digo, vuestras empresas ya invierten mucho en marketing, en comunicación, o sea, aprovechemos este contenido. También que respondáis a los comentarios que os deja la gente en vuestras publicaciones. De esa manera también generamos una conversación y podemos conocer gente, ¿no? A mujeres, hombres de otras empresas, que eso también al final nos ayuda a crecer nuestro network. En vuestras publicaciones siempre tiene que haber tiene que incluir media. Por ejemplo, pues fotos, vídeos, para que aumentemos el engagement con el contenido. ¿Quién se va a leer un texto de palabras y palabras en las redes sociales? Siempre pensad que la gran mayoría del tráfico en las redes sociales también viene por los móviles, ¿no? Entonces, que se vea una parte de texto, pero además también que haya una parte visual. Y por último, compartir tags. Seguramente muchas de vosotras los conocéis, muchas seguramente utilicéis Twitter, que es ahí donde nacieron, pero incluyáis tag que lo mismo, que os representan, que aportan valor a vuestro perfil, a vuestra actividad, a vuestra misión como profesional. Pues, por ejemplo, liderazgo femenino, We Are Globant, diferentes que vosotros podáis ver también en vuestras páginas o las que vosotras queréis crear. Con todo esto, os quería decir, bueno, pues que disfrutéis y aprovechéis al máximo vuestro perfil de LinkedIn roqueado. LinkedIn es una herramienta súper potente y, como os decía, os da la posibilidad de que conectéis con gente por todo el mundo, independientemente de nos conocemos, no nos conocemos, nunca nos hemos visto. Al final es una red profesional donde también se comparte mucho contenido, muchos artículos. Hay muchos grupos que se crean movimientos. Así que aprovechadlo. Y bueno, con orgullo podéis, digamos, participar con vuestro perfil de LinkedIn roqueado. Espero vuestras conexiones por LinkedIn y os deseo todo lo mejor.
Let's get inspired by the rockstar in the diversity business, the Hall of Fame, inducted marketing executive that span various industries and includes roles as the global CMO of Netflix, CMO of Endeavor, CBO of Uber, head of marketing of Apple Music and iTunes, and head of music and entertainment marketing at PepsiCo, Bozoma St. John. It is a pleasure to have you again, giving your support at the Woman That Build Awards.
Thank you so much for that introduction. I am very excited to be here. This is a great topic, especially because we're talking about empowering the women of the future. You know, for me, the idea of empowerment comes from 3 places. And so that's what I would like to close with today. All right, so you ready? Because we're about empowering ourselves. So number 1, the question of empowerment is within the power. What does that actually mean for us? You know, when we think about empowerment, we think about somebody else giving us the power. Well, I'm here to dispel that. So the first thing that I want to talk about is power. How do we get our own power? The second thing about the future, you know, the thing I've learned about the future is that you can't actually predict it. Okay, so anyone who told you that you can predict the future, they lied to you. Even when we look at all of the ways in which we want to understand what's going to happen later, you know, the main thing that we need to understand, what is happening right now. That's the key for the future, understanding what is happening right now. So that's number 2. Number 1, the power. Number 2, right now. The third, and this, of course, is based on my mantra and the fact that I have a book that is coming called The Urgent Life. So it's about urgency. So those are the 3 things I want you to take away from this little segment that I'm going to give you now. Okay, so first, let's talk about the power. When we think about empowerment, yes, of course, we usually think that somebody else needs to empower us, right? That we think that it requires a group of people or a CEO or some law or rule or process that gives the empowerment to us. That is not true. The power really does need to come from within. So how do you do that? First, I think one of the things that we need to consider is what is the meaning of our presence in an organization, in a community, in a time. I like to think about biology or science, physics maybe, when you think about power and the individual contribution. So think of it like this. You don't matter. You know, matter, any kind of matter, whether it's water or it's compound matter, matter exists. Okay, so if you consider that a society or a company or a community is matter, when you change one molecule in the matter, the entire matter changes. You are that molecule. So that one little bitty thing enters a new matter and everything changes. That's how powerful you are. So consider the fact that regardless of the space that you're in, it could be your family, it could be a company, your community, your church, your school, any place that you enter as a whole matter changes when you enter it, and it changes when you leave it. And so consider how powerful you are in that. And so as you consider the decisions you make, the places you enter, your voice, in a certain situation, that's how much power you wield. I think it's always interesting, especially as women, that sometimes we look to be allowed into a space or allowed to speak, allowed to contribute. We've often been told that we need a cheerleader or a coach, a mentor, somebody who's going to give us access into a room. Well, what happens when you get in there? Then we start considering, well, what is the right time for me to express myself? How do I express myself? Perhaps I need to do it in the way it's always been done so that people will understand me, so that people will hear me, people will appreciate me. Well, if you're that molecule, that single individual molecule that is here to change the matter, then anything you do, anything you say is powerful. And it has real meaning and real impact. So consider that every time you enter a space, even if it's just a meeting or a call, think of yourself as the molecule. So the molecule that changes the matter. The second that I talked about is, of course, the power of now. So right now, we have the idea of what is happening in our culture, in our world, and in our, I would say, in our behavior, right? Around how we do things. A lot of what we've been trying to do over centuries, by the way, not even just now, as the advent of data has, of course, forced us to move into predicting what happens in the future. Now, I'm not saying that data is irrelevant. Of course, it's relevant. It's very, very relevant. It helps us to understand what is happening. We have so much that we consider, right? In terms of how to make decisions or how a culture is going to be affected, or even how we're going to create strategies, vision for the future, even if it's your own goals, right? And sometimes we're trying to understand how we can predict what is happening. The best predictor of what is going to happen in the future is what is happening right this very minute. Now, here's the really interesting thing, okay? Something we've learned over the last 3 years, especially when we entered the shutdown of the pandemic. What happened then? Everybody froze. All of our plans went out the window. Everything that we thought we knew was finished. We didn't know what to do. People were stuck trying to decide how to move forward. All of the strategy plans, the vision statements that we'd made, all of a sudden were disrupted because our world had been disrupted. And it is at that point, and in our current situation, that we needed to consider how to pay more attention to what is happening right now to help us predict what's happening in the future, right? And so therefore, we are in a constant state of reevaluation. That even when you make a plan for the future, you have to constantly consider what is happening right now and tweak it so that you have a better ability to capture what's going to happen in the future, so that you're more nimble. That's actually what wins you. The ability to predict what's happening in the future is required to understand what's happening right now. So perhaps we need to change our perspective. Instead of constantly thinking about what's going to happen tomorrow or next month or next year, focus on what is happening right now and then make your plans based on that. And by the way, if you do that really well and you get very used to being nimble about evaluating what's happening around you and therefore adjusting your plans based on that, you'll win. Because you can't have a fixed North Star. You can't have a fixed point that you want to make. But if you're able to be flexible and nimble around that, you will still get to your goal, even though you change tactics a little bit. I like to think of it like cooking. Have you ever cooked some spaghetti? Maybe you have. If you haven't, let me explain what spaghetti is. Spaghetti is a very hard food, okay? It comes in a long stick. And the way that you cook it is by dipping it into hot water. And then it softens. And you can then take it out and consume it with whatever sauce you want. Now, let's consider that the hot water is our environment, right? Now, if you are out here as the spaghetti stick and you don't want to jump into the hot water, you'll break. Every plan that you have will break. So yes, consider jumping into the hot water, which is our current situation, our current climate. And then you will soften, be able to shift and turn and make yourself more amenable to what is happening. So consider right now as the present opportunity for you to actually fix what's going to happen in the future and to be nimble with it. And the last point that I'll make is about urgency. So now, I just talked about the power of now, and I talked about the power of you. Urgency is the thing that's going to make you so effective. Okay? Because urgency is not just about speed. It's not just like, oh, I've got to do the thing right now, right this very minute. And then you're careless and you take risks that are, not good for you and you create a mess. That's not urgency. Urgency is about intention. It's about taking something, understanding it, and then making a plan that this is what I want to do based on your own intuition. So this is about everything that has to do with you. First, the fact that you are so powerful. You are so powerful. So we're not going to give our power to somebody else and allow them to tell us how powerful you are. You are the molecule that changes matter. The second is understanding right now so that you can be flexible in the future. You can be nimble and sharper and better. And then be intentional. Know that this is what you want to do right now and then make it happen. If you do all of those things, I guarantee you that your future will be certainly very bright and that you'll get to where it is you want to go. So with that, I leave you empowered. Take care.
Thank you for being part of Women That Build Talks, empowering the leaders of the future. We hope you enjoyed these practical and sustainable tools to boost your career. We want to give a special thank you to all those who supported us in making this event possible: Udemy, Coach Hub, NYSE, Vital Voices, Salesforce, WEF, and the supporting organizations around the world. For us, #EmbraceEquity is also about bringing opportunities. That is why we are launching this Women That Build community to keep in touch and expand your network around passionate IT women. What is more, we have the possibility to connect with universities and coding schools around the world to find out about upcoming events, training, and career opportunities.